to do now is give you knife anatomy, the anatomy of knives. That's naming the different parts of the knife. Now the reason I want to do this is because I want to put a more mature and cultured image on knives rather than a macho image. Now if you've got juvenile tendencies, which is nothing to do with your age, it's to do with the way you act, and you like messing around with knives and stabbing your mates, pretending to, that is, and things like that, then I want to put across that these tools are made not only for cutting, these tools are made for killing as well. So you shouldn't be messing around with knives, okay? And also the names of the parts of the knives also extend to swords as well. And swords and knives go back hundreds and hundreds of years. So when you look into it, it's actually quite interesting. So let's crack on and have a look. Now this bit here is the pommel or butt, and it's made for bashing. So if you're holding a combat knife, then this is another variation of your fist really. You'll be bashing your opponent depending on what position you're in. Now if you've got a survival knife, then you'd be opening nuts, cracking open nuts or something like that. And if you're in urban society, as an emergency measure, you could be smashing a window to save someone or something like that. So that's the pommel. They've all got pommels except for this one. Oh, sorry, this one. It's flush. Okay. Now, moving on to the lanyard hole. Which holds the lanyard? They've all got them except for this one. So not all knives have got all the parts, okay? Then you've got your handle, you've got your nuts, screws or pins to hold your handle together. This one's got screws, okay. Now this one hasn't. It's just a rubber mold, which is quite good, okay. Then you've got your quillen. This bit dropped down here is your quillen, or rear quillen I should say, guard or bolster, and it's just as it sounds, a guard. Stop your hand slipping off. And on the other side is your front quillen, guard or bolster. Stop your hand slipping onto the blade if you're in a stabbing motion. And this one's got a cross guard. You could call it a guard, but it's actually a cross guard. And same thing, stop your hand going onto the blade if you're in a stabbing motion, but also in a combat motion, if your opponent bashes his blade on your blade and slides it down, it stops your hand being cut by your opponent, okay? And that'll reduce your abilities to fight. Okay, so that's the cross guard. Now you've got your gym pin, which is that little bit of grip there. This one's also got a thumb ramp, okay, that's a thumb ramp as well. And that grip is gym pin, it's called gym pin. There's a bit of gym pin there on this one. And this one as well. Give your thumb a bit of grip. Also you've got your tangs. This one's a full tang. As you can see there, the steel goes from the blade straight through the handle. Not only straight through to the end, full tang, it's also right across as well on this one, as you can see there. And you might see a bit better on this one. Goes from the blade straight across to the end. Now this one is a full tang, but it's actually called a rat's tail because it's wide there and then bevels down to a smaller width there. And as you may see, that's the size of the width at the end. Now this one is held in by a tight retainer pin. So it's still a full tang, but it's called a rat's tail. So that is the handle. And the blade. Okay, this is the spine. This is the false edge, or the swedge, or the clipped point. As you can see, it's clipped on both ends. And this is therefore to aid in stabbing, whether you're stabbing thick clothing or thick skin or something like that. This is the point. This is the belly. And this is the cutting edge. Now from this bit here down, that is the grind or the beveled edge. Okay. Now this bit here where the blade stops or the edge stops, that's called the heel or the choil. Okay. Now this bit here, this flat bit or the blunt bit, is called the ricasso, and it aids you into choking up on the blade and doing finer cuts, something like that. And this has also got a ricasso as well. It's a different one, it's more of a concave cut. Same job though, just to choke up on the blade and do finer cuts. This one's got a very poor ricasso, it's only tiny, but what I've done is made this bit blunt with a file, so I can do the same thing and squeeze that without getting cut. Okay. And finally, the fuller. This is called the fuller, this groove. Now I thought it was called the blood groove. I got called out on this actually, and I looked it up and it's quite interesting. It's not the blood groove so much, it's called the fuller. And it's a bit of a misnomer really, called the blood groove. Now, you know, I've a little flags was flicking up in my mind as well, because I thought, if that's a blood groove, why doesn't that groove go right up to the hilt? But what happens is, realistically, if you stab a person, now, even if the blood does come out there and it does tighten up around the blade, you could, you know, if this blade is sharp enough to stab into a person or an animal, then this blade is sharp enough to cut itself back out again. So it's not so much a blood groove as such really. It's called a fuller, and the reason it's there is to stop the blade bending one way or the other. Okay. And the little I'll show you how it works. See this bit of paper, it's got a flat edge and it bends very easily. But this one is folded like a cutout groove and it doesn't bend so easily. So that's how I could explain it, I suppose. And that's the blade. And just a little bit on pen knives. Now that little piece cut out there where my nail is sinking into, that's called the nail mark, and it aids you to pull the knife out like that. Now this one has got a thumb stud both sides, so this is a left-handed and right-handed knife, and it aids you to open up the knife one-handed like that. Okay. And also if you're left-handed, you could do it with your left hand as well. So that's the thumb stud. Now if it's got a hole instead of a stud, then that would be the thumb hole, okay? But as it happens, it's got studs, so thumb stud. The handle, but it also could be called the case as well, because it's a case that holds the blade, obviously. So there you go. That's a little bit on pen knives. Oh, by the way, that bit there is actually the pivot collar as well. This one's got pivot collar as well, but it's you can't see it. So that's it for penknives. Okay, what would I consider to be the perfect knife? Well, I would want one that's got a pommel. I'd want one that's got a full tang, both right across the width as well. I'd want one to have an oval handle and not a rectangular handle like that. That's why I've put the rope on this to make it more oval. I'd want, instead of jimping, I would want a crossbar like that, and not a single sort of guard like that. I would want a ricasso that size, so it fits my finger, and not that size, it's too short. I like blades with black coatings like these, and not that one. If I had a blade that's got a thin spine like this, or this one, I would have a machete with it. So this would do the chopping, and this would do, or this one would do the general purpose stuff, and feather sticks, stuff like that. If I had a knife with a thick spine like this, or this, I would probably that would be it. I wouldn't have a machete as well, because this does everything. It'll chop thick wood, and it can do finer things, but it's not, it doesn't really have a proper combat element to it. It's possible, but the belly is too fat, so it'd be more difficult to get through thick skin or thick clothing. So what is my perfect knife? Well, that's what I want. I want a pommel, an oval handle, high quality, so it's well, high quality, so it doesn't break. A blood groove, not blood groove, a fuller, so it reduces the chances of bending and snapping. I would like it to have a black coating, a cross guard, but I can't seem to find one that's got it all. So there you go. Anyway, I hope this video helps you out if you're choosing a knife, gives you more of an understanding of what they're used for and the parts and everything else, and gives you a value of more responsibility with a knife as well, and not just messing around with them. So anyway, that's all I got to say, except like, share, subscribe if you like, and thanks for watching. Cheers.